you have iPads and have that as an option. Did that download? Did anyone see? I didn't notice it.
If we don't have Keynote, will we be able to
PDF or PowerPoint
Okay.
would be, oh, I downloaded it twice, sorry. Yeah, so it's, if you have nothing, you've got PDF. Okay, so you just have to scroll down page by page then.
And VoiceThreads will be an app and it's a free app, so that can be on iPads.
Yes. It's free. Your district can buy you more seats. I think it comes with maybe 50 seats originally. That's per email. If you got to really, get cheap about it and have it absolutely free, but you need more than 50 seats, you can have multiple emails. Okay, this is how some teachers do it. They have a school email that they might use. They might have a personal email that they might use, and they get another 50 seats. And they might yet even have another email that they generate just to have another 50 seats. It's a tracking issue when you do it that way. It's better if your school just cough up the $120 or whatever to provide you a massive class that gives you like 200 seats or something like that.
And I think part of that at this point is school by school. So my school has it. I don't know if everybody does.
Shelley just said we have it.
You have it.
Perfect.
Perfect. Oh, here it is. It was hiding. Ages since I've used PowerPoint. There we go. Okay. So critical response, what I'll do is I'll take you through this process. How many people have used critical response before? It resonates with you. Okay. So a third of you. Good, good. If this is brand new to you, just focus on the questions. The work we're going to look at, normally when I'm doing critical response with students, I don't tell them who the artwork is from. I don't normally give them any context. I've already kind of framed it when you saw me load it, and you saw that Laura Youngbird was the name. So by that you might know that it's a woman. Okay. Simply telling the students that it's Laura Youngbird's work already starts framing it to, okay, it's a woman, so they may look at the work differently. Okay. I don't like them to bring that kind of context to the work. I tend to just go with the work and let it go. I don't typically give them size, dimensions. I don't give them any information about the artist. You just simply start with these 5 questions of inquiry. What do you notice? What does it remind you of? How do you feel? What questions does it raise? And then finally, speculate. The goal here is that you're building students' capacity to be able to articulate a given image. You're trying to build their capacity to really look at a work, unpack it, digest it, and eventually it should get them to be more sophisticated when they create their own work, how other artists are generating work. So these 5 questions here are really, really useful. The one that you may consider changing, if you were at middle school, maybe even high school, is this one, and I'll tell you that some teachers, I got this from Minneapolis, they were like, oh, we got to change this one all the time because students won't talk here. They don't want to talk about how they feel. But if you rephrase it and put it out there as, how do you think the artist intends the viewer to feel, or reframe it so it removes it off of them, you'll probably have better success with that particular question. Okay. Elementary, I don't care. They're willing to share anything. Maybe I could get the lights dim just for this part, because it gets a little, it's hard to see anyway. The first thing that I typically do is I set the image up for teachers, but if I were teaching students, I'd let them to simply look at the work and just kind of digest it without talking. Really, really kind of deeply view the work. And you frame it out with the first question, what do you notice? Ask me anything. And so when you're looking at the work, when you're looking at the work, what are some of the things that you notice?
I noticed 2 small children sitting on a deck.
Right. Nice. Other notices?
I notice wood texture.
Wood texture. Oh, sure.
I notice a lack of color.
Lack of color. Great.
Layers of visuals.
Layers of visuals.
I noticed like a choir of women standing in the back.
All right, right up here where she's referencing. Other notices. Obvious or not obvious?
Building in behind the women.
Sure. Notice a building back here. Very prominent.
I notice the chubby cheeks.
Chubby cheeks. Got a 3-year-old daughter who has those chubby cheeks.
I think I noticed a giant face in the window.
A giant face in the window up here.
Mm-hmm.
She thinks she notices that. Maybe she does. Well, she does. Maybe you do.
I think I noticed a large eye.
A large eye over here.
Notice that it's a building on a building.
A building on a building. So this looks maybe superimposed over, perhaps.
Looks like a figure in the smack dab in the middle.
Right here.
Mm-hmm.
The second one to the left of it, just up a little bit on that white board, or over one more, on the other side of the ladies.
Over here. Oh, right here. Sure.
Notice some drawings of some sort on the floorboards.
Right. There's all kinds of, if you look very carefully, and if you're maybe closer, you might be able to see this a little bit better. Symbols, drawings, almost etchings within the work.
I notice the little girls are maybe looking at something or possibly reading something.
Right. Something going on down here, isn't there? Attention's directed towards it.
The images on the left and the image in the window aren't as clear as the images on the building and the girls.
Right. A little more opaque over here, isn't it? A little harder to discern, more clear.
There's a lot of lines, the wood lines, and then the lines on the left and lines in the window.
Sure. A lot going on there, isn't there? Other things you notice.
Maybe a second building below the window, where it's like right above the head, it's like a fence.
Right in here we're noticing something that might look like another building.
It looks like it might be stairs on the left-hand side.
Perhaps stairs over here or a stairway.
There's a lot of shading.
A lot of shading, a lot of
Value.
value going on in this work, isn't there?
Almost looks like a wood pile in the upper right corner.
Up here.
Mm-hmm.
How many of you have noticed things by just listening to others that you didn't immediately notice before? Hopefully that's what happens with your students too, is that their surface level treatment that might otherwise happen becomes deeper and more sophisticated simply because you have other students adding to that. And I'm not telling you what to notice, am I? I'm just simply backing up, getting out of the way, and allowing basically the group to contribute to that that base of understanding. What does it remind you of is the second question. So now they're going to connect it to prior experiences, prior artworks that they may have investigated. What does this remind you of? Just very open-ended.
Reminds me of two little people sitting inside with like a movie projector going against the wall.
Mm-hmm. Like this is all being kind of superimposed on right over the top of them. Right. Great.
Reminds me of my grandma for some reason. The old images bring back memories of her.
Great.
That's what I thought too. My grandparents era.
Thanks. Other thing, other reminds.
It reminds me of Kathy Howitz's work.
Ah, yes. Yeah, like a very textural kind of treatment, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Reminds me of Depression era photography.
The building on the top reminds me of, the school, the boarding school that Patrick Dejolie talks about in his lifetime.
It's interesting that you noticed this as a
That,
boarding
I mean,
school.
that struck me.
Other things that it reminds you of?
Reminds me of childhood, and there's so much going around that maybe kids aren't allowed to see around them.
Mm-hmm. Thanks.
Reminds me of, this might not have been what they experienced, but this history, impacts them.
Sure. Sure. It may be before them, it could be after them, we don't necessarily know, but it definitely impacts them. Anything else you want to share on what it reminds you of? Move to the next question. How do you feel? Or how do you think what do you think the artist intends the viewer to feel when looking at this work?
I feel isolated.
All right, feel isolated, definitely. Definitely that going on maybe in here.
I feel tired because of all the things going on.
There's so much in here, you want like a little visual rest perhaps, huh? Yeah. Other emotional responses that you see within the work?
I feel naive.
Naive? Like you don't know something?
Yeah,
Okay,
I feel like one of the little children on the floor, just oblivious.
great, thank you.
I feel like these two little girls are escaping.
Mm.
Like they're kind of caught up in a book and they still have the ability to be kids even though all this is going on around them.
Great. Thanks.
I feel like the littler girl, there's a sense of fear, and she's kind of clutching to the older girl's hand. So I feel like a safety net that the older girl is
Great.
providing.
Yeah, maybe more sense of a fear in that child, or it's hard to know. We want to know what's going on right here, don't we?
I feel nostalgic, but it's not my nostalgia.
Okay.